What you're about to learn has the potential to change your life forever, and over the next 8 minutes, your view of yourself and how others perceive you will be completely turned upside down, but in the best possible way. With that said, let's get right into it. Do me a favor and ask yourself this: why are you here? If you're like most people watching this video, you at one point in your life came to the realization that you were tired of the way things were going in your life, and you decided it was time for a change. Now for some of you, this was right after you got home after an awful day at work where your boss had been yelling at you all day just because he can. For others, maybe you weren't blessed with incredible looks and a massive amount of testosterone that is oh so common among men who have an easy time getting attention from the ladies. So basically what happened was you reached a point in your life, maybe even a rock bottom, and you said enough is enough, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to change myself because I know that I deserve better. So ask yourself this: what is causing 80% of your problems? And for most men, it's simply a matter of being perceived by other people as having low value. Now I know, it's a hard pill to swallow, but if you don't have perceived value, the only people who want anything to do with you are other people who are just like you. Think about this. They always say like attracts like. So if you're a criminal, typically you will attract other criminals and you will do criminal things together. Just like if all you do is watch Netflix and eat pizza all day, other people who live the same lifestyle will be attracted to you because they do the same thing. So if 80 to 90% of your problems are simply how people perceive you, then the only question now is how can we fix this? And no, the answer is not buying a nice suit, winning the lottery, or focusing on some other superficial thing. In fact, the keys to the vault that you need are already inside of you. Because once you get your mind right, your behavior will follow. And as your behavior changes, so too will other people's perception of you and how much value you are perceived to have. Starting with number 1, which is the prize. This is easily one of the greatest changes that a man can ever make to his mental frame, and it has a massive potential to forever change how you interact with other people for the better. Now remember, something like 90% of all of our problems are an indirect result of how we view ourselves and how we think. Everything in life is an exchange of value, so one thing of value is exchanged for something else of value. Our entire society, in fact, is built on this principle, and it's why you give money to the guy at McDonald's in exchange for a Big Mac. And in the same way that we trade money for products, the same concept is true of humans, whether we realize it or not. Now here's where it gets curious. What if you actually have a value of 10, but you perceive yourself to have a value of only 2? What do you think is going to happen when you try to exchange your value with a girl who sees herself as having a value of 10? Obviously, that's most likely not going to work out very well for you, because in the same way that you wouldn't pay $100 for a Big Mac, another human who has a perceived value of 10 is going to avoid spending too much time around somebody who has a perceived value of 2. Now, we're not going around compulsively assigning numbers to people. This is simply an oversimplified way to make a very important point. So here's where it gets really curious. What if your value could actually be whatever you believed it to be? Now this is the hardest, yet the most important point for us to understand, because it has the potential to change everything for us. Pretty much all of you watching this have great value, and the key is sitting right in front of you to unlock this value, but you haven't picked it up and used it yet. What if you believed that your value was 10? How do you think this would change your behavior and your interactions with other people? Pretty much all men who are perceived, particularly by females, as having low value actually have great, unique value to offer, but they simply don't believe in themselves. No matter what it is in life, belief is everything. So if you believe you have a value of 2, then other people tend to believe whatever you believe. Now before anybody else will ever believe anything that you tell them, you have to first believe it yourself. For all the things that we ever hope to accomplish in life, we have to first believe that they are possible, or they will never be possible. Now, most men make the mistake of vastly underestimating their own value. So if their real value is something like 8, they tend to think of themselves as maybe like a 4 or a 5. And what this does is it causes us to miss out on so many opportunities simply because we unintentionally lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that we're not good enough. In the dating world, there is the saying that you have to be the prize, and one of the most common mistakes that we make is putting other people's value far above our own. So basically, what we do is we put other people, particularly females, on a metaphorical pedestal. And most of us are subconsciously and unintentionally trained throughout our life to do this as we're growing up, and usually when we are at an age that is too young to really know any better. And what it all comes back to is simply knowing what you're worth and truly believing that you are valuable and that you are the prize. It's not about assigning numbers to people, it is about belief. Any day of the week, a man who is confident simply because he chooses to believe that he is valuable is going to have a far better chance at getting other people, including females, to see the value that he has within him. Sure, superficial things like being overweight or not being blessed with the best physical looks are going to reduce your value a little bit. But a man who is confident simply because he believes that he has value is going to have a far better chance than a man who has the opposite frame of mind. This is one of the most important aspects of what you would call game that any man can understand. And the moment that you start believing that you have great value, your behavior will start to change, and then other people's perception of you will change right along with it. Think about it. Every day, we pay money for internet service, for food, for toilet paper, and for all sorts of things. And for something like 90% of those things, we have absolutely no idea how much these things are actually worth. When we go to McDonald's, we assume that the value of a Big Mac is $6 because that's the price that we see printed on the menu, so we simply believe that it's $6 because the menu tells us so. Now this leads us to number 2, and you do not want to miss this. Number 2 is that whether we want it to work out this way or not, the market sets our value. Now, this is super important, and it's the main reason why we must have actual value if we want our life to improve dramatically. If you have a guy who wasn't born with good looks, who is short, and who has many things working against him in terms of your typical things that make a man attractive, sure, he's going to have a harder time than those who are a bit luckier. And based on these various factors, other people or society as a whole will determine his actual value. But here is the most important part. Self-belief, or belief in oneself, or simply believing that you are a prize, is almost like a cheat code, and it can override many of the things that would typically reduce a man's value, such as being short or having a really creepy face. Now, what you have to understand is that when a man simply believes that he is a 10, he doesn't need all of the superficial things that he thinks that he needs to achieve a massive increase in value. In fact, all that he really needs, or all that you really need, is mind over matter. All that you really need is to first conquer yourself, or to conquer your mind, or the beliefs that you currently hold in your head. Guys who have what you would measure as a value of 10 all had to start with the belief that they were a 10 before they could ever acquire the reference points that they can think back on whenever they or somebody else causes them to question their own value. What you have to understand is that all of this is simply a mental game. It is all about our frame, or how we perceive ourselves, which affects to a large extent how other people perceive us and how much value they assign to us. Pretty much all of the problems that we have as men with value, with self-esteem, with confidence, with all these things that affect our lives on a daily basis, relationships, money, and everything else, all of this can be traced back to the beliefs that we currently hold within our mind. So if you can change those, then you will never again view yourself as having low value. And with that said, I want you guys to understand that every single one of you are amazing. And thank you so much for your continued support 3 years into this. And as always, until next time, thanks for watching.